Talk a little baseball. Playoffs are right around the corner. Always good to talk to a great baseball writer. Covers MLB for USA Today. That, of course, is Steve Gardner. Steve, how you been, pal?
Good. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing really well. 5 teams in the AL over 500, 7 teams in the NL over 500, which just tells me, I mean, the AL, to me, as much as I want to see the Yankees make a deep run, not a lot of good baseball in the AL. We'll get to that in a minute, but I will ask you this. Now, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago about Aaron Judge, and I told you, well, he had a couple lulls here and there. But now, how do you not seriously consider him for AL MVP? Because it has been a historic rookie season.
Yeah, you have to. And I think, we do our little in-house power rankings here at USA Today, and he's definitely in the upper tier of players. I think there's a top 4 in the AL, and Judge is one of them. Jose Altuve,
Yep.
I think, is the front runner in that. But also you have to give credit to Jose Ramirez, and just because he's Mike Trout is still in that conversation for me. He may not be for other people. So maybe 3.5 top candidates.
I have to actually take Trout out of the equation because they're not going to make the playoffs. And I look, I know they were right there. And the reason I have it between Altuve and Judge, first of all, you got a 5.6, 5.7 spark plug, and then you got a 6.7 slugger. I mean, that tells you how much. I mean, that's baseball for you, right? But if you take Judge off the Yankees, are they still a playoff team?
Probably not. I mean, you've got the home run leader in the American League, the runs scored leader in the American League. I mean, those are some pretty important qualities in the middle of that lineup. So, yeah, I don't think so. Are the Astros a playoff team if you take Jose Altuve out?
Well,
they might be, but he's still a huge important
no
part
doubt.
of that team too.
No doubt. 97 wins, 97 and 60. For that team. I mean, they're just red hot. I'm wondering though, when you have a season like this and you win 97 games, you got the Indians winning 98 games. What are the expectations for the Astros? I mean, because we've seen them over the last several years, and they started to turn the corner. Forget about those 100-loss seasons, but now they are a perennial powerhouse in the AL. I know they're thinking World Series. They want to win, no doubt. But what really would be the realistic expectations for this team come the postseason?
Well, I think certainly anything less than getting to the American League Championship Series would be a letdown for them. I mean, the Cleveland Indians, having made it to the World Series last year and on the verge of winning Game 7 in their own ballpark, I think they have to be the favorites considering, their experience. And for the Astros, I think the one thing, if you're an Astros fan, is you wanted to see this team grow. You thought you may have, last year was kind of a step back, but now they've kind of the young core is there. It's intact. It's going to be there for a good long time, it looks like. And I think this is maybe the first step in the Astros, maybe mini dynasty we could see. So I think the players are just now starting to gel and mature as a team. I think it's probably, for the Astros, if they don't make it to the World Series this year, I think they can feel very good about what they're going to be next season. So, yeah, maybe there won't be that much disappointment if it does happen that way. But, I think anything short of getting to the ALCS will be a huge letdown.
Harper wasn't in the lineup last night for the Nats as they fell to the Phils 4-1. But prior to that, they had a little brief 2-game losing streak, but they won, I think, 6 out of their last 8. They stubbed their toe last night against the Phillies. But listen, we know they're a playoff team. They ran away with the NL East. We know they have an explosive lineup. We know they have a ton of power with Harper and Zimmerman and Murphy. Again, Murphy having a great year. Zimmerman having a great year. I know pitching wins, but I'm more concerned with the manager going forward because his postseason track record, it's not a good one. Make me a believer this year in Baker and the Nationals.
Okay, I'll give you the first thing is, in Dusty's favor, is he's not Matt Williams. So I don't think you will see this team
That's a fair point.
Down the stretch. Number 2,
little shot at Williams, but a fair point.
Yeah, well,
it speaks for itself. Yeah, I know.
This clubhouse is a unified clubhouse, which it was not last season, and they have talent just everywhere you look. And you get Bryce Harper back. He did play half of the game last night. Didn't look that great, but he looked physically, he looked okay. And I think that was the most important thing, getting him back on the field and giving him, a little time to shake off the rust. He's been fine and very impressive in some of the sim games, so he looks physically like he can go, and he's at close to 100%. But as you know, Rich, it's much different when you get under game conditions. But you put him back in the lineup, and the experience that all of those other guys, and some of the guys further down in the roster, the Adam Lynns and the Michael Taylors and Victor Robles, who may or may not be on the postseason roster, but he looks really talented. I mean, the experience that they got playing without Bryce Harper, I think will only make them stronger now that Harper comes back. So you add him in there to that offense, which I think is the best in the National League, and you put the starting pitching with Scherzer, Strasburg, and Gio Gonzalez, three of maybe the top 5 or 6 pitchers in the National League this season. You've got a team that's really coming in and playing well and has to be certainly a co-favorite in the NL and maybe even the favorite.
The Dodgers went over the 100-win mark, first time since '74. They won 102 games that season. But like I said, we've talked about this, right? It comes down to pitching, and we as much as I criticize, and he's a great pitcher, and I've had my opinion on Kershaw come playoff time. We've talked about this. It seems like the last 10 years. You've got Darvish, who's a pending free agent. I mean, I'm looking at guys like Rich Hill and Alex Wood. I mean, to me, you kind of know what you're going to get. Even if Kershaw loses a game here and there, you know what you get from him, though. But how motivated should guys like Hill and Wood be? I mean, if you're looking at that starting rotation, to me, these are two pitchers that are likely going to be slotted behind Kershaw and Darvish. So they're not renowned as those two are, but they're going to depend on those two arms.
For sure. And you know what? They are talented. I mean, we've seen Rich Hill be dominant. He had the 9 no-hit innings just a couple starts ago. I mean, that's the kind of guy that Rich Hill can be. His problem has been being healthy, and he's healthy right now. Alex Wood, just a phenomenal season, picked up his 16th win last night. He's a fantastic guy if you're slotting him in as that number 3 starter, number 4 starter. So I think that the thing with the Dodgers is, in their starting rotation, they've got 3 lefties and Darvish, the right-hander. If you've got a team that can, have some success against left-handed pitchers, I think that's where the opening is for the Dodgers because they depend so heavily on them. Yes, Kershaw is outstanding, and Wood and Hill have been very, very good this season, but maybe that's the opening in the Dodgers' armor that you can attack if you're a very, very good team and, like the Nationals. Or maybe even the Diamondbacks, with J.D. Martinez and Paul Goldschmidt. That could be, if the Diamondbacks end up winning the wild card game, that could be maybe the series of the playoffs because those are two teams that are very, very good, and the Diamondbacks match up really well with the Dodgers.
All right, let me ask you 2 quickies, and then we'll close it out. We got a couple minutes left. Colin says he wants to remain in baseball, but it does look like he's going to be out at the end of the season with the Mets, correct?
It sounds that way, yeah. I don't see how they need more changes than just the manager there with the Mets. So it would not surprise me to try and start over if they possibly can.
And then as far as the Phillies, and look, I know it's all nice when you look at the record and they'll avoid the 100 losses. There's been this sentiment that Pete Mackanin should be the manager going forward, even though he's still under contract. But even going forward after that, you give him a spring training under his belt. You give him a couple of months to work with some of these young kids. I know the record doesn't always stand out, but the bottom line is, he's done a good job. I think he's shown that as much as the line of questioning is uncomfortable when you talk about job security, he's done a good job managing these young kids. And I'm wondering, do you think he's in it for the long haul? Do you think he'll be their long haul answer, long-term solution, I should say?
I think for now the answer is yes. And the question is, if you do fire him, where do you look for another manager? I mean, he's got experience with this team and these players. You watch the Phillies more than I do, but just seeing them, play in the Nationals and other times, it looks like they still have fight in them, and they're still giving, with certain exceptions of guys that get benched for not hustling or whatever. But I think that's where Mackanin kind of reins guys in when they don't give the effort, and it seems like they're still playing for him, which I think is really important when you get to when you're with a team that is losing, a lot more than it's winning. You need to keep it together, and I think he's doing a pretty good job of that.
I agree, and like I said, we can't misconstrue being a player's manager for soft. He's done a good job. All right, my friend, I know we're a little pressed. We got another, a couple more days, and then we get into it. Postseason baseball, it's a great time. We'll definitely talk next week. Always appreciate the insight, pal.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rick.
You got it. Steve Gardner, great writer from USA Today, jumping on board for a couple moments.